Elizabeth Ann Holmes will go down in history as one of the biggest investment fraudsters of all time. Once a supposed genius billionaire, she now claims she has not a dime to pay any of those she defrauded back. It's a sob story we've heard before, and despite her expensive PR and legal teams, it's doubtful anyone is buying it. It's also doubtful anyone will see much money coming back to them. You may remember her as the head of a blood testing company she named Theranos. Elizabeth and her company falsely claimed that they had developed a method of testing for all manner of things with just a tiny finger prick of blood. The fraud caused the value of her company to soar, and in 2015 Forbes named Holmes the youngest and wealthiest self-made female billionaire in the U.S., based on the valuation of her company. Just a year later, the fraud began to reveal itself, and Forbes placed her net worth as a goose egg. Yet, nada, a big old zero. Fortune magazine would feature her in an article called The World's 19 Most Disappointing Leaders. Disappointing. I guess that's right. Back in 2015, journalists and regulators were investigating Theranos and the miracles it claimed it could perform, which would revolutionize medicine. More importantly, those investigations began to reveal that Holmes, are you ready for a shocker, misled investigators and the government. It would be another 3 years before the SEC would catch up to the frauds and charge Holmes, the company, and its former COO, Ramesh Sunny Balwani, with defrauding investors of $700 million through their false and exaggerated claims about the accuracy of the company's blood test tech. She paid a $500,000 fine and returned 18.9 million shares to the company. She relinquished voting control over the company and accepted a 10-year ban from serving as the officer or director of any public company. And honestly, that needs to be for life. But the SEC would not be the end of it. In June 2018, a federal grand jury indicted Holmes and Balwani on fraud charges. Her trial would finally end in January 2022 with a conviction for defrauding investors. She was sentenced to 11 years, 3 months in prison, and she was given until May 30th, 2023 to start serving that sentence. She was also fined $452 million to be paid to the victims of fraud. Now, she's jointly responsible for that with Balwani. She would claim her employees misled her and that Balwani had a hold on her, and she was so innocent. But evidence was clear that she played a role in fake demonstrations, fake validation reports, misleading claims, and overstated financials. Because, why be honest in one area and completely dishonest in another, right? She would appeal and delay and appeal and delay, but ultimately was ordered to surrender into custody by May 30th, 2023. If she maintains good conduct, she could be released some 2 years early. Ironically, for the well-connected and wealthy, it was Holmes's connections, in part, that allowed her to fool so many investors. Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, James Mattis, and Betsy DeVos, all federal government officials at one time or other, helped Holmes build Theranos, helped convince other people to invest, just by their stature. She started out adult life at Stanford University and is now one of their most infamous students. She was in their School of Engineering but dropped out and used her tuition money to seed a healthcare technology company called Real-Time Cures. Professor at Stanford told her that her idea of getting vast amounts of data from a finger prick was not likely to work. Other professors and medical professionals told her the same thing, but despite that, an advisor and a dean at the School of Engineering, Channing Robertson, backed her idea. She renamed the company Theranos and Robertson would start introducing her to venture capitalists. She deepened her voice and started dressing like Steve Jobs. She has a couple of stories around when she started to wear the black turtlenecks a la Jobs. But who is surprised that she has contradictory stories about anything? Me? You? No one? Okay, good. She wouldn't even admit to the fake voice until an interview just earlier this year. Somewhere around 2013, she was able to suck Walgreens into partnering with Theranos to launch in-store blood sample collection centers, a huge mistake that Walgreens is now being sued over. Then she was able to suck in the Cleveland Clinic, Capital Blue Cross, and AmeriHealth Carius. Seriously high-profile medical organizations. It would be a tip to an investigative journalist that would lead to the downfall of Holmes, Theranos, and her former lover, Balvani. John Carreyrou would speak to insiders, obtain company documents, and speak to whistleblowers. Holmes tried to have her lawyers threaten legal and financial action against Carreyrou and the whistleblowers, but that came to naught, and the article was published in the Wall Street Journal. This included details that blood tests were being conducted with already commercially available machines, and not the little miracle Edison machine that Holmes and her cronies hawked. Then another article and another would slowly reveal that Theranos and its technology did not work, that investors and others had been misled, and that patients were not at all getting what they were told they were getting. Oh dear. Carreyrou, thankfully not intimidated by Holmes's threats, published a book based on his investigation in 2018. If you're interested in this type of investor technology fraud, I recommend the read. It's a good one. Holmes would then claim that the Wall Street Journal was a tabloid and promised published data, but it was too late, and that data would never show that her little device worked at all. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid warned Theranos over their procedures, employees, and equipment, problems they refused to fix, resulting in CMS recommending a 2-year ban on Holmes owning any clinical labs. Then the state of Arizona filed suit against her for misrepresenting the blood test she sold there. Theranos settled that suit by refunding customers, paying a $225,000 fine, and paying legal fees. There would be federal investigations and class action suits to follow. What claims to be completely broke may simply be an attempt to prevent further investigations and suits, but hopefully those continue, even if they simply result in getting to the root and the truth of the whole ordeal. Shareholders would come next, reaching an agreement to end litigation in exchange for preferred stock and some of Holmes's equity in the company. Then the SEC charges in 2018, which included outright false claims that the Department of Defense was using Theranos tech, and more false claims about their revenue streams. In September 2018, Theranos announced that it was dissolving after rounds of layoffs saw the company go from about 800 employees to none. Some of the investors would lose tens to hundreds of millions of dollars when Theranos folded. Many were exceptional investors who might have discovered some of the problems with some thorough due diligence, and maybe that's the lesson here. No matter who is seeking investment and who their connections are or what they claim that their futuristic technology to be, due diligence is key. Unfortunately, for many other women entrepreneurs in medicine and technology, it seems that Holmes's scams looms large, and they are often compared to Holmes or not looked at for investment in an appropriately serious fashion because of the impact Holmes and her scams had on these industries. That's her legacy. That's the legacy of Elizabeth Ann Holmes. The harm and the fallout, impossible to measure with precision and just long-reaching. Until next Thursday, Have a great week. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.